Welcome to the Retro Blood.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Retro Blood as we finish up our 1980s anthology month, talking all of these stories within stories. Up next, if y'all like classic television shows reimagined into movies, if you like a racist white dude who gets his basically, all right, if you like old people who turn into kids and then turn back into old people, if you like some kid who can wish a bunch of shit like candy and cartoons, and if you're like a dude who freaks out on airplanes, then this is a review for you, brother, because the Retro Blood is talking all about Twilight Zone, the movie. Hey, Alison, Jame Kline. What's happened, Alison? Have you visited the Twilight Zone recently?
I have. For the last few days, I feel like I've pretty much lived in the Twilight Zone. I try to frequent the Twilight Zone quite frequently, and I love the Twilight Zone.
Now, what story would you be on here? Would you be stuck in the kid's house where he's doing wish magic on you, or you'd be that dude on the airplane, or you could be getting hunted down by some clan members?
Oh man. Well, I wouldn't be the guy on the plane. I'm not afraid of flying.
Yeah, this guy was freaked out.
He was a little bit overly freaked out. He just needs to calm the fuck down. I don't know. I wouldn't be any of these people.
You're like, none of them.
I don't think I'd be any of these people.
What about the people singing the song? Midnight Special. You'd be one of them, huh?
Oh, yeah. That okay. I forgot. For some reason, forgot about that. I would definitely be Dan Aykroyd.
Yeah. It's very interesting, man. Like, this whole movie was really interesting because, Twilight Zone is probably one of the most famous television shows of all time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's also one of the most, like, before its time TV shows of all time as well, too. And, Twilight Zone is, like, pretty much like a long version of, like, an anthology because every episode's, like, new, Like, they don't use the same cast or characters. They pretty much, have all the brand new storylines and stuff. It's, for the time being, and then even nowadays, it's one of those shows I think ages really well. Compared to a lot of other shows out there.
Absolutely.
Like, you can, like, literally watch it, like, nowadays, and you can find things within Twilight Zone that's actually still happening today, which is crazy.
Yeah, like, the things that he talked about were, there were things that happened, like you said, it's way ahead of its time. So he's talking about things that people wouldn't care about for years. But they're important things to talk about. Like I could just imagine that a lot of the concepts of what he's saying, like most of these episodes or the serial stories we're going to talk about tonight were remakes of television episodes in ways. And like a lot of those are topics that people wouldn't have wanted to talk about then. But Twilight Zone was such a popular show, it kind of made them do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love Twilight Zone. I watch the show all the time. Like, I watch it just on repeat. Like, I'll just watch all the seasons, and then I'll just watch all the seasons again.
Yeah, like,
it's just so good.
It's one of those shows where you can definitely, like, binge watch,
Yes.
Like, you can, like, just keep watching and watching, and sometimes the stories will just get, like, crazier and crazier.
Yeah, and it's legitimately, a lot of it's legitimately scary. To me, like it just, I don't know why some of the stuff is scary, but it just is. Like, have you seen the episode The Howling Man? I believe that's what it's called.
I mean, I probably have, but it's been like, I'm not gonna lie, it's been like fucking probably a good 5-6 years since I watched an episode of Twilight Zone. I didn't get to rewatch the episodes that were mirroring off this movie, even though I know about some of them. But it's been a while. The only one I can remember in my head, all right, is the To Serve Man, all right, which is probably one of the most
famous ones.
Yeah, that's probably the most famous one. Yeah. And the one where they were talking about at the beginning of the film where the dude loses his glasses and he can't read his books anymore Kind of reminds me.
That was awesome.
Kind of reminds me of you, Allison. All right.
Is it? Does that remind? Yeah, that would piss me off if I needed glasses to read books.
How are you gonna read the book? Luckily,
I don't. But yeah, if I ever get glasses, which is becoming more and more of a possibility as I reach the old age, I will definitely probably get more than one pair of glasses just in case the end of the world comes and I need them.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, and like a lot of things he wrote about were like was I'm sure scared people then, scares people now. Like, and Rod Serling, by the way, was basically the creator of Twilight Zone and wrote a lot of the episodes.
And he was the narrator too.
And he was a narrator along with Robert Matheson, I think is his name, who was actually an author, but he wrote a lot of episodes of the Twilight Zone, and he wrote 2 of the ones on this movie.
Yeah. And we have
Richard Matheson, that's his name.
We have Steven Spielberg in here too. I mean, we got a lot of people.
He directed one of the episodes.
Yeah, we'll talk all about that.
John Landis comes back to the Retro Blood after American Werewolf in London.
Yes. And we got the what's his name? Dante, or the Joe guy who did the Gremlins. He's back here too.
Joe Dante, yes, exactly.
Yeah, he's back here too, brother. Returning to the Retro Blood. But yeah, this one's gonna be a little interesting. Like right off the bat though, like I know they were like, I could tell like the stories they were mirroring because like half of these ones, I'm not sure if all. I think actually all the stories were like inspired by Twilight Zone episodes. But it just, some of the stuff was like, when I was watching it was like catching me off guard. And I think the some of the charm that was on the original, shows was not there too much during this movie. But, we'll talk about it, which ones we liked. We'll do it like we did all these episodes so far this month. We'll talk about the stories we liked and which ones we didn't like. But let's get into the history segment, brother, because we have a little bit of stuff to talk about. So this movie actually came out. All right. Well, first thing, so I just want to let you guys know, so Twilight Zone actually ended, all right? And it says here, June 19th, 1964. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So, which is crazy. So it ran for 5 seasons. Started in October 2nd, 1959. It ran until June. Like, it's just crazy to think that somebody would finally, rebirth Twilight Zone in 1983. Which is crazy.
Well, I mean, it makes sense if you think about it because basically the prologue with Dan Aykroyd and oh my God, his name escapes me. Albert Brooks. The prologue with those 2 guys in the car kind of explains why they're doing this. Because it's because I feel like a lot of people that I knew that were that age then, when I was like a little kid, they looked back on this time of the 60s as like a long lost thing that's just gone now. And then when they would hear something from that time or see something from that time, it would bring back these memories, which is why like when they're talking about Creedence and it's like, oh, I love Creedence. Like today, that wouldn't be an uncommon thing. Like I feel like people listen to Creedence Clearwater Revival a lot. And most people would know who they were. But back then, like people that age would be like, oh, that was a band from my time, quote unquote. But like I think that all of those guys watched that show growing up and it really influenced them, and they wanted to bring something back kind of like that. So
I got you.
That's why I think it.
They were doing some member berries, basically.
Yes, exactly. Member berries.
God, to make everybody feel old, it's like a member berry now. Yeah,
I can tell you quite a few. But,
I know, when it comes to music, to me it would be like, like 9 Inch Nails, like first album or something. It would be like a member berry now,
Yeah.
Or like even some of these like old like crappy bands that we had to listen to if you watch wrestling as much as I did, like Saliva. That's like a member berry now. Hey, remember Saliva? They were all over WWE.
if you want to really feel old, like think about a couple things. Like one, Family Guy's been on the air for almost like 30 years now.
Yeah, and South Park.
And South Park, yeah. South Park's been on the air for about 30 years.
I remember that thing. I remember when South Park came out. I watched the first season live.
Yeah. And another thing too, I was thinking about the other day was like, I remember when Kurt Cobain's suicide hit 20 years, and it made me feel so fucking old. But in a month from now, it'll be 30 years.
Dang, there you go. That's how time goes, man. That's how it goes.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to get the walker pretty soon.
Speaking of time and getting the walker, this movie came out June 24th, 1983. All right. So we're back in some of these 1983 movies. You know what's fun? Like, we've only done one movie in June of 1983, and that was Psycho 2. Check it out, everybody, in the archives. Okay. So there actually wasn't a whole lot of horror movies in June of 1983. Like these two, Psycho 2 and Twilight Zone, are like kind of like the main two. Yeah. There's a couple other ones that are like these really like random B movies, and one of them actually is kind of fun. I think it has like what's his name, Nelson, the guy that we did in Creepshow 1. He played the serial killer stand guy, naked cop guy. There's one that's like with him on there. I like kind of want to see. But what's interesting about this month though is we're going to be talking, when it comes to the pro wrestling, something that happened on June 2nd of 1983, and that was the finals of the first ever IWGP Championship tournament, which had Hulk Hogan versus Antonio Inoki.
Yes. Did you watch this match?
Yes, I watched the whole thing.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was long.
Very different.
Yeah, Hogan was quite different in Japan than he was here.
Yes.
He's not two-move Hogan when he's in Japan.
So like for the longest time, like I used to watch. So, it's a quick story. When I started watching wrestling, I talk about it all the time. I didn't start until like the late 90s. Okay, so the Hulkamania era and WWF, that shit was way gone. I started watching wrestling when I was a kid in 1998. So all I remember seeing is kind of like the Hollywood Hulk Hogan, character. Okay, and of course he was already in the NWO, was already established to be in the NWO, and all I heard from people, oh, Hulk Hogan, he doesn't know a wrist lock from a rich watch. You know what I mean? He doesn't do all this technical wrestling. He doesn't know how to do any of that shit. Brother, did you watch this match? This guy was Zack Sabre Jr. out there. Okay, what is?
Yeah, I mean, he was doing drop toe holds and all kinds of things.
Like, his first move was like a STS. I was like, what is going on here? He's like exchanging holds and amateur wrestling with Inoki. I was like, this is crazy, though. It's just so funny to watch. And this is 1983, and not even a year later, he'd be like the biggest star in wrestling. It's just crazy to see. And it's a really crazy thing to think that Hulk Hogan was the first IWGP heavyweight champion.
Yeah, with that title, yes.
That was
that was the new title that they did. But
But
yeah, I mean, that makes sense though in a way. I mean, I'm sure Hulk Hogan was super popular in Japan.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, because he's a big guy. Japan has been known, especially during this particular era, to like their big foreign, big guys. Obviously Stan Hansen was a big guy. Vader was a big guy. Brody was a big guy. Hulk Hogan's a big guy. Andre's a big guy. They love their big guys. They even do that nowadays. Most big guys that go to Japan usually get over. I mean, shit, Lance Archer got over in Japan a lot because he was a big dude. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, but Alison, I'm going to ask you about this. So I thought this was like super fascinating. So, this IWGP tournament, like, apparently, like, how it started out was, it was like a tournament, and you would win the inaugural crown, all right? And then you would, like, defend it, like, the next year or whatever, in the tournament again. Do I get that right? I think that's how it worked.
I believe so, yes.
Because they did that for a while, until they branched it off until the actual belt that we see nowadays, the IWGP Championship. So like it started off with just like a tournament belt, and then they branched it off to make it defended regularly instead of like every time a year. So, but yeah, this match was pretty interesting. What did you think about it?
I loved it. I mean, it was great. I mean, Inoki was a great wrestler. I mean, one thing I was surprised about, I have to admit, I haven't seen a lot of Inoki matches. I mean, I've seen this one a couple of times, but I haven't seen a lot of Inoki matches. But I was surprised at how big Inoki was. Like, he was a very big guy. You know what I mean? Like, he was very wrestler sized, which is not true of a lot of Japanese wrestlers. But I loved how physical it looked. Like, they actually looked like they were fighting, and they treated it like it was a sporting event, like it was a boxing match. And you could tell that Inoki was really influenced by Muhammad Ali and the way he just carries himself and the way he stands. But yeah, I loved it. I mean, I thought the match was great. I mean, it was very, very different, like you said before, from anything we'd ever seen from Hulk Hogan, but it was a good match. What was your thoughts?
So, besides seeing Hulk Hogan do all this technical wrestling that I was told as a child he didn't know what to do at all. Okay. I thought the presentation was like kind of how you see Japanese matches nowadays. You know what I mean? Got the streamers in there. It's more, Japan has always been more of like a sports style presentation, with their their formats. And it just like, I thought, so it just weird to see at this time where Hulk Hogan at half the match, they were like just exchanging holds. You know what I mean? Like they were going like back and forth, like reversing arm bars and stuff. And they even did the old test your strength on the mat spot that I actually seen. Like I seen like Zach and Brian do that spot before. I just, it's just crazy to see Hulk Hogan in that that style match. And then they started doing the brawling. Okay. Yeah. And boy, this Inoki guy, he can sell great. I mean, fuck, bro. His selling was fantastic. And the height that Hulk Hogan got on that leg drop, gee, I never seen him go up in the air so hard. Fuck. Did you see that thing?
Young then. He could jump higher than the ropes at that time. He was young Hulk Hogan.
And the finish
was before Hulkamania.
Yeah. Yeah. The finish of this was a little weird. Like he got like, so Inoki grabbed him on his shoulders and like they all like fell out of the ring together. And then like Hulk Hogan got back in. Inoki was a little dizzy getting in him. And then he goes on the apron and Hulk Hogan would just lines him off the apron. And that was so devastating that Inoki got back in and he passed out. And then it took like a little like 15 minutes for them to get him out of the ring. And then Hulk Hogan signed some piece of paper.
Which I'm assuming means Hogan won?
Yeah, he won by knockout.
By knockout, okay. I was a little bit confused because I didn't understand the Japanese and like I was kind of confused as to how the match actually ended. But yeah, so like he just beats him up basically, and then he passes out, and then then Hulk Hogan wins the title. Yeah, which I guess he signs a paper for. I guess I don't know. And then like it's very interesting too because eventually Inoki he wins I believe he wins the next year's tournament. Don't quote me on that, but I believe so. And he's obviously during that particular reign of the belts, he was like the longest. He reigned the longest with that belt. But when I was doing more of my research, I didn't realize that Hulk Hogan and Inoki teamed up. All right. And if I'm not mistaken, these belts that they were going after, I believe were called the Madison Square Garden Tag Team belts. Wow.
I was like, what are you talking about?
They can only be defended in Madison Square Garden.
Well, I don't know. Like, I just was reading about it. I was like, this is kind of like, what the hell? Madison Square Garden Tag Team belts. What the hell? So, yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting when it comes to them. But, yeah, I mean, it was a pretty good match. Like, it's very, very technical and a little slow, but it wasn't bad. Like, I mean, it seemed like everybody was liking the match and everything. And it's just kind of cool to see, like, Hulk Hogan, like, not, like, before he became, like, the big charismatic person that he was. Like you can see it. Like I mean, it's just really fascinating. You know, you got to give this guy credit because he knew his audience. You know what I mean? He knew how Japan was. He knew how America was. This guy, he knew his audience. He knew how to wrestle for his audience. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah. So the research that I've done about this particular match was that, you're right. This was the first year that they did that IWGP tournament, championship tournament. And IWGP, by the way, for people who don't know, stands for International Wrestling Grand Prix. So it's kind of like their heavyweight title. Well, this became the heavyweight title in 1987. But Hogan defeated a 10-man round robin tournament, or he defeated Inoki in the final of a 10-man round robin tournament. And other people in the tournament were Killer Khan, Big John Studd, Andre the Giant, Rusher Kimura, Enrique Vera, Otto Vons, and Akira Maeda. And then he carried it for a year, and then next year Inoki won the tournament for a chance to fight Hogan, yes. And then he beat him.
Yeah, so he did
a year later for the title.
Yes.
So it's basically like the G1.
Well, it's interesting though. Do you know how he lost?
Precursor to the G1.
So
the second time?
Yeah. So Hogan lost the match and title belt by countout, thanks to interference from Ricky Chosu.
Weird.
Can't have his brother. You can't have those shoulders pin the mat. You kidding me?
No,
that don't work for me, brother. So that's pretty interesting.
Wow. Yeah. So Hogan didn't get pinned, and Inoki wouldn't. I mean, Inoki wasn't going to get pinned in this tournament either, though.
Yeah. So you got to do a countout or disqualification, brother. Nobody can lose.
Yep. Nope. Right. Nobody can lose. Nobody can be pinned.
So yeah, it's very, very fascinating stuff here. I always like seeing like different, like, you know, people like different in their elements and stuff. So that everybody check it out. You can find it like on YouTube or, you know, if you have New Japan World. But let's get into some of the metal music because we have another segment of what was Iron Maiden doing this month. But this one is actually segment. This is actually pretty interesting because we've talked this album before, but we haven't talked this particular track off this album. So, and you know, bands still do this nowadays, and I think it's very smart. Where they'll release like a title track, you know, the signal coming out. I feel like, you know, the way they did it back then was a little better. I'm not even counting like back in with CDs too, because what they would do is they would release their one of the main title tracks off the album they're doing, but then they would have like a special, like either like a live performance or like a remix song, or in this case with the Trooper, they would have a remake of a song, or what do they call it, copy of a song. Mm-hmm. So, but Alison, you know, you're more of the Iron Maiden guy over here. Tell us a little bit about the actual Trooper song.
So the Trooper is the quintessential Iron Maiden song. If anybody has ever heard an Iron Maiden song, it's probably the Trooper. It's the most famous song they have. It's more famous than Number of the Beast, Cannot Play with Madness. It's more famous than any of their other songs. I don't know how anybody could argue that. And it's one of their best songs. I mean, it has that, you know, that dual guitar like thing at the beginning and the galloping and the typical Iron Maiden stuff. It's been played at every Iron Maiden concert I've ever been to. I've never seen a show where they didn't play it. It's a song everybody always wants to hear, no matter how many times they've heard it. This was the era when Iron Maiden first started like really going into the upper echelon of rock and roll bands. Like before this, like with their first two albums, they were kind of opening for people. And then even when they put out Number of the Beast, they still toured America opening for the Scorpions. But this was the first single, I believe, that they were going to put out for the Peace of Mind album. And Peace of Mind, I feel like is Iron Maiden's best album. It's my favorite one. And this was what got them to be arena headliners in the United States. And after that, they had pretty much conquered the whole world. So Iron Maiden was popular everywhere. and they would only get bigger all the way up to about 1988 or so. But yeah, and then after this, they had the World Slavery Tour with the Power Slave album, and then they were just gigantic. They were playing football stadiums at that point in some parts of the world. But yeah, the Trooper though is like the famous Iron Maiden song. If anyone's ever heard an Iron Maiden song, it's this one, and it's probably still the song I would play to a person who'd never heard Iron Maiden, because it does clearly define what they sound like, in my opinion. I assume you've heard the song.
Oh yeah, definitely.
What do you think about it?
I think it's great, and I like the kind of like the history behind it. You know, where it's part of like some sort of battle.
Yeah. So I think it was based on. Well, it was based on what do they call it? The Charge of the Light Brigade.
Yeah.
And there was a poem that was based on Charge of the Light Brigade as well. But yeah, it's based on a famous battle where the United Kingdom fought the French. Fought the Russians, I believe. I don't know how it ended. Actually, I'm not a huge historian on these kind of things, but I'm sure Bruce Dickinson knows how it ended. But yeah, it's cool. Like they were, I like they do that a lot though. They write like Steve Harris writes a lot about history.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of cool. And that's something that other people definitely weren't doing. Like it's hard to find bands that wrote about history, like metal bands that were writing about history during this time. And I think that Iron Maiden pretty much influenced most of the bands that did later. And then that gallop in the guitar, the rhythm guitars, they didn't invent that, obviously. That like that. They didn't invent that. That's called a triplet. But I would be willing to bet that every metal band that used it after that was influenced by Iron Maiden to do it.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I could definitely see that. So apparently the song was based on the Charge of the Light Brigade at the Battle of the Balaclava, 1854, brother.
Very good.
And it's inspired by this guy named Lord Tennyson, 1854 poem of the same name. So there you go, brother. But Alison, did you know that this this trooper signal? Do you know it actually had another song on it? All right.
It has. I know it has a Jethro Tull cover.
Yes. Cross-eyed Mary.
Song or not? Yeah, that was Jethro Tull. That was a great song.
And apparently,
Jethro Tull's another great band.
And apparently, at the time, this cover got more of a radio play than the actual Trooper did.
Really?
Yeah.
That's crazy. So they played the B side on the radio more than they played the Trooper.
Yeah, because it says on here it gained more amount of airplay in the US, where it was becoming one of the band's few tracks, along with previous single Flight of Icarus, to do so.
Interesting. So I love how you find all these like obscure like little facts about things like that. I would never have known that.
I love little things like that, man.
Yeah.
Because
not only do the people.
I'm kind of like me and you are kind of like the guys in the opening scene. All right, we sing the song until the 8 track gets eaten up, and then we talk about random shit that doesn't matter.
Pretty much, yeah. Yes. Till their cassette gets
like me. I wouldn't be humming shows. I'd be like, Alison, did you know that I was doing some research, and this one Iron Maiden track got more airplay?
That's pretty much how all of our road trips are.
Yeah.
Like every time we go somewhere, it's like a did you know, and then we talk about the did you know thing, or I'll ask some what I think is a closed-ended wrestling question, and then we talk about it for 3 hours.
Yeah.
Which are all fun things.
And we got to figure out the bacon. All right. So there is a couple. So I was reading some of this stuff too, which I thought was a little interesting. And of course, this doesn't happen in the 80s, but it did happen with this Trooper song. So, did you see the music video? You probably seen the music video for Trooper. They have like scenes of the fucking battle, and then they're just playing live.
Oh, yeah. I've seen that.
So there's a couple things. So apparently, like, when so one music video that they did that was never before seen clips is of the band playing the song, as well as the animated battle between Eddie and politicians Al Gore and George W. Bush. To which Eddie ended the conflict in the video by killing both of them.
Yeah, I'm sure that was obviously made later, but I
Yeah.
haven't seen that version. But yeah,
And
That's
then
pretty-
then they made a 2008 version which just had the Ellie killing there was like a yellow skeleton and then there's a red enemy skeletons. And I thought this one was pretty interesting. So apparently, like when our boy Bruce was doing the song live, he would always wave the Union Jack flag during the performance.
still does.
Still does, yes.
Yeah,
But he got some heat for it in a couple places. One of them
was
being
one of them
one
the
of them
Republic
being
of Ireland.
well, yes, Ireland I believe was one of them. I think they booed him when he was on Ireland doing it. But the other one was apparently your girl Sharon Osbourne in 2005 was attacking the band for doing that at Ozfest because of the whole British and
there's
Iraq
there's a whole long story with that.
Yeah.
So that's not. There's more story to that. So like she fucked with them and they like fucked with Ozzy's crew and there was like this whole beef with them on the whole tour for some reason. I don't know why Iron Maiden would even do that.
Yeah.
They're better than they didn't need to do Ozfest. They're better than that.
And like now that I'm thinking, I think I went to 2005's Ozfest and I don't remember Iron Maiden at all. Fuck.
No, if you're talking about the one we both went to, that was 2004.
Yeah, but I went to I know I went to the one the next year too.
Oh, I don't know if that they did the whole tour.
Okay, maybe they haven't.
Ozfest 2005.
So yeah, when you're looking that up, it's like it's pretty interesting, you know what I mean? But hey, it's not like he's doing it for some sort of like political reason. He's just doing it because that's part of the song. He's talking about the battle that had the Union Jack in it, and I believe he's from Britain, right?
Yeah, they're from England. Yeah.
Yeah. So there you go, brother.
And it fits the song too, because the song is about a British battle.
Yes. So, but while you figuring that out though, let's transition until you find it into who booked this shit, brother. All right. The Twilight Zone, the movie. All right. So it was produced.
Well, I do have it here.
Okay, say it.
By the way.
Go ahead.
So basically, the story behind what happened, Sharon Osbourne and a bunch of people she brought in from the crowd threw eggs and ice and other things at Bruce Dickinson after he allegedly ridiculed Ozzy for needing a teleprompter. And then the last date that they played was August 20th, 2005 in San Bernardino. So now let me see what the dates were for that.
That's a battle.
San Bernardino.
That's a battle that I didn't know about. Ozzy Osbourne versus Bruce Dickinson. Book it, brother.
Yes, that was apparently a big deal. So you probably saw them in Dallas, Texas on August 25th. So they were not on that show.
Ah, okay,
they jumped off the tour two shows before this.
Dang, I almost got him. Okay, yeah, because I remember going to that show, but I don't remember any Iron Maiden stuff because I never seen them before.
Yeah, because I guess Black Sabbath did it again, and then so you saw Black Sabbath, Rob Zombie, Killswitch Engage, Shadows Fall, and Black Label Society. I guess.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah,
because I remember Shadows Fall being there, and right when Shadows Fall, this is in Dallas, right when Shadows Fall came on, everybody like rushed this fucking stage, like all the lawn people, they're like, "Fuck this!" They just ran into the fucking thing, because it used to be.
Did they stop the show?
No, they just kept going. Everybody's just like, fuck it, whatever. like all the people that just ran, I guess like a lot of the seats didn't sell or something, so all the people just ran in and just got their seats. Like they paid for lawn tickets, but they just went up to the fucking seats area, and they were playing at the I'm not sure what it's called now, but it's called like the Smirnoff Center back then. Mm-hmm. And yeah, that's what I remember from that Ozfest, because like I got the lawn seat. And I just remember that people were rushing the stage during Shadows Fall. So yeah, it's pretty good show. Like I don't know, the main stage is always something like you gotta pay extra to see these bands and sit down. I was like, I don't want to do all that. At that particular time, I was more into like the second stage people anyway. So, but I do remember that show. It was really fun. I miss Ozfest. But yeah, like what
Yeah.
a rivalry we needed. Bruce Dickinson versus Ozzy, brother. He should have booked it back in the day. 20-minute, one hour Iron Man match. All right.
Yeah. Yeah, main event of WrestleMania.
Yeah, exactly. But let's get this going. that's
All right.
that's a very.
Tell us who booked this shit.
I mean, let's be honest though. Like this fucking Bruce, he'd run circles around Ozzy. That's for sure.
Of course he would.
I mean,
of course he would.
So let's talk a little bit about who booked this shit, brother. Twilight Zone, the movie, 1983. All right, it was produced by Steven Spielberg and John Landis, of course, based on Rob Sterling's television series of the same name. And we had a lot of the stories, directed by Landis, Spielberg, Joe Dante, and George Miller. So we have a lot of chefs in the kitchen, brother, and they're all doing like their own little story here. So that's kind of cool, having each story being directed by a different director. So
yeah, George Miller's the guy who directed the Mad Max movies, by the way.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
Yeah, if you weren't familiar, or people out there aren't familiar with him, he made the Mad Max movies, and he also made Babe and Babe Pig in the City.
Oh shit. Okay. Which one did he do on here?
He did the last one.
Oh, okay. Yes. But actually, that one was pretty good. With the young version from our guy from was it from Third Rock?
Yes, John Larroquette, not John Larroquette.
Yeah.
Oh my God, he's one of my favorite actors. I can't even. John Lithgow.
Yeah.
He's an incredible actor. He's so good.
Yeah.
It's kind of a shame that people know him from Third Rock from the Sun, although that's a funny show.
Well, hold on. I never watched that show. Okay. I knew him as being that crazy serial killer in Dexter. I thought he did a fantastic job on the 4th season.
Yes, he plays serial killers really well. He plays crazy people really, really well.
Yeah, I thought he did pretty good on this one for being like a whacked out guy seeing a monster on the airplane, doing the whole
where he's like completely losing it.
He put a little bit more into it than our boy William Shatner did.
True, although I like the William Shatner version of this as well.
Yeah, me too. It's one of the best episodes the Twilight Zone did.
Yeah.
So, a couple things about this movie. There's the big thing about it is, I'm going to have Alison talk about it, is the old drama and accident that happened with some stunt scene that happened with the helicopter crash. What can you tell us about that, Alison?
So basically during the first segment, the one with Vic Morrow, the one where he's like a racist, the one directed by John Landis.
Yes.
So my understanding is that so he originally wrote this script, or his original script did not have the scene that I'm about to talk about in it, but he says that the film company wanted him to add the scene to the movie. And it's also that during this time, one thing you have to consider too is that film companies really did not run Hollywood like they had in the past and like they do now, because it was still a part of what they call the new Hollywood era, where the directors were in charge of everything and it basically had complete creative control. And studios didn't get involved in cuts or anything like that. It started with like Easy Rider, and those Steven Spielberg is like, the king, or the leading light in the new Hollywood era. So basically Landis could do whatever he wanted. So he wanted to create a segment of this movie where the film company was actually worried that Vic Morrow was not likable because he was racist to nearly every single person that you could possibly think of, as he illustrates in the first 2 minutes of this. But they wanted to make him a little more likable, like he'd learned his lesson or whatever. So they created this scene where there was going to be this village in Vietnam, and it would have been part of the segment where he was in Vietnam. And they were going to have him like find two orphans that, so there's like supposed to be a helicopter that's bombing this village, right? That's shooting rockets into this village. And he finds these two kids whose parents had been killed, and he picks them one up under each arm, and he runs through this water to safety to save them, because now he's not racist anymore, and he's turned over a new leaf and all that. And basically the camera was set up to where it was facing the village, and all he had to do, and then the helicopter was flying in from a different direction. So all he had to do was pick up the kids and then run across the water, and they were going to cut, and that was it. But the problem they had was well, for one thing, they did it at 2:00 in the morning, and they illegally hired the kids. So they couldn't tell anybody. So they told the parents of the kids that they were on set, but they told them not to tell anyone that the kids were in the movie, because they couldn't work kids after 8 p.m. or whatever. Mm-hmm. So they were shooting it at 2:00 in the morning, and the special effects guy was doing the explosions. So they used, back in then, obviously they used all practical effects. So they used real explosions. The helicopter is only about 25 feet off the ground, so it's really low. And then when they did the trial run, there's pictures of them doing the trial run with Landis standing in the middle of the water with his hands up, and then video of that where they're shooting off the explosions, and then the helicopter's rocking. And then the pilot was saying that he was having trouble retaining control of the helicopter with the explosions. Or he said something like, he's like, wow, that was a lot of explosions. And then Landis said, well, he's like, you haven't seen anything yet. So when they shot the actual scene with them running across the water, the special effects guy didn't realize that this explosions were affecting the helicopter pilot. So, and he was setting off too many at one time. So it basically made the helicopter crash. And then one of the rotor blades decapitated Vic Morrow and one of the kids. And then the other kid was crushed by a part of the helicopter that broke off. And they were both killed instantly. And there was a lot of lawsuits. They tried to put the helicopter pilot, the special effects guy, and John Landis in jail. But they couldn't be, they never got convicted, because you can't, they're saying that they can't control what's an accident. You know what I mean? Even though Landis should have known better than to try this. Yeah. Because obviously he knew what he was doing was wrong. But they were killed. And I'm assuming that this scene was shot after all the other scenes in the show were shot, because Landis said this didn't really affect the story at all. You know, like it's not obviously not in the movie. However, there is an episode on Shudder of Cursed Films where they talk about this, and you can actually see the footage of the people dying in it.
Oh shit! What?
Which I found shocking. Like they cut it like right before the helicopter blade kills them, but you can actually see the footage of the accident. Like you can see them run, because they filmed it obviously for the movie. Yeah. And you can see Vic Morrow and the kids running across the water, and then you can see the helicopter come in and it crashes, and then right when it crashes, they cut the footage that's on Shudder. But yeah, if you watch that episode, you can actually see it.
Wow, that's pretty intense.
Yeah, like when I was watching that, I was shocked. I was like, I cannot believe they somehow got clearance to put this out.
Yeah.
But it was a different world then. Like now, yeah. Like they also in that episode they talk to Kane Hodder for one thing about you know, safety and stunts, and he basically says, well, accidents happen, and he talks about setting himself on fire and how it like gave him burns and that kind of thing. But most of the other people, you know, were saying that this would never happen now. We would have so many like safety things in place that nothing like this, you know, happen now. But yeah, I mean, it's really interesting. It's really tragic, but I mean, I think it's an interesting part of the history of this movie, though.
Yeah, it's very interesting, and you know, apparently you know, Steven Spielberg, you know, obviously was disgusted by this, so he apparently ended his friendship with Landis. All right. And he wanted to put an end to the new Hollywood era, which is, like you were saying a little bit before, like, you know, during this era, like the director pretty much had complete control of the whole film. Like what they say goes.
Right.
You know, nowadays there's a lot more producers involved. The studio company gets more involved. They probably have like all standards and practices that they're adhere by to make a film. Probably for some of this reason. And apparently, even George Miller, all right, he was repulsed by this, so he abandoned the project post production, leaving our boy Joe Dante to supervise a lot of the editing, even on his script.
Yeah, I was about to say, I don't think that. I think Miller just completely. Well, it wasn't the accident that caused this to happen, but the way John Landis treated it.
Yeah.
Because even if he didn't feel that way, he kind of came across as if it wasn't really a big deal and wasn't his fault when he should have taken responsibility for it. And I think that's one of the things that disgusted George Miller, and he just kind of walked off the movie and didn't finish editing his part at all.
Yeah, because I guess Landis he says he was denying the culpability for the accident, but admitted that hiring the kids was wrong. Because when they were doing this, like you're saying, with the child actors, they would have to have a parent or a teacher on set because they basically were violating the California law that was at the time.
Right. But I mean, like, why would they not use? I mean, not that this would be any better, but like, why would they not use a stuntman?
I mean,
why would they have Vic Morrow do his own stunt?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. To be honest with you.
And like, if you see the shot, like from my understanding, the way the cinematographer, I think it was, the way he lays out the entire shot and how it was supposed to work. Or actually, it might have been the guy that designed the village, because his story is really sad, because he said his career was over after this. But basically, they had one camera, and the camera from that accident footage is what kind of high up, and it shows them from a distance. Like, they could have used a stuntman and two fake kids, and you would never have known the difference from them running across the water. And then they could have shot a scene anytime they wanted to with him actually talking to the kids in the village. So I don't know why they even did this, or how they taught Vic Morrow into doing it. Or there's just so many, like, it's one of those things where if anything were different, the outcome would have been different. But they did every worst thing they could.
Yeah.
Made every worst decision.
And it's also weird, too, because, like, we were trying to make this guy a baby face at the end. Like, okay.
Well, yeah, they were trying to show that he'd, like, turned over a new leaf and make him more likable, which it's really hard to understand. I mean, how anyone could be likable after everything that he's, said in the beginning of this movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, I know you know what I mean. But it's also kind of strange too that he was like, well, we'll talk about this when we talk about the actual movie, but how he's like, it's almost, I mean, obviously it's a movie, but it's almost like he's purposely being offensive to every single racial group in like 5 minutes.
Yeah, it's like, it's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
So a couple of things about how this would, like, I guess, like you were saying earlier, like Landis said, like, this wasn't really going to affect the script too much. But like, here's was his like original idea if everything went according to plan. So he says, this is what Landis, he says the intercutting between the actions of the KKK and American gal in the Viet Cong and the Nazis became more and more frenetic. As Bill tried to protect the children, finally the Nazis take the children away and shoot them and load him up on the train. So we decided not to use any of the footage of the children. It was a very difficult situation. Do we keep it in the movie? And ultimately we decided it would be really outrageous to Vic Morrow if we just cut it out of the movie completely. Landis also said, there are moments in the segment I think work well when Bill is in the cattle car and he looks back and you see his POV at the bar going by, and I think it's an upsetting image. So I guess, they pretty much, they were going to have him end up in the train, and they filmed all that anyway. It just, I guess they cut out the scene with the kids. being shot and stuff.
Yeah, so I guess they were going to have him. He was going to run across the water, and he was going to, how he keeps warping back between the different times through the whole thing. Like, I guess he was going to warp into back to Nazi Germany, and then they were going to shoot the kids, which sounds like a really uplifting ending to that. But the kids were pretty much innocent, right?
Yeah. So, a couple other things. So the prologue scene with Akron and Brooks, a nod to supernatural-based comedy skits featured in later episodes of anthology series Night Gallery. You ever seen Night Gallery?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love Night Gallery. They had them on Hulu for a while, but I think they're gone now. I need to find a way to get Night Gallery. I really liked it. It's very Twilight Zone-esque. I don't really remember these comedy skits they're talking about, but it's very much like Twilight Zone, but it was made later. I believe it was made in the late 60s or the early 70s. I believe it was early 70s.
Yeah.
When Night Gallery was made. It's also good. It didn't last as long. I think it lasted 3 seasons maybe.
Yeah. I remember watching a couple episodes. Very interesting concept to it. So apparently they're also saying, the rest of the film actually got shot after the whole helicopter accident. And a lot of people were claiming that Spielberg's heart wasn't really into the project at the time that he was beginning to shoot his particular segment with the old people turning young again.
Yeah, I could see that.
I could see it too. I mean, that segment was it was something, I guess. Not a whole lot there.
We'll talk about that. We got a lot to say about that, I'm sure.
Yeah, and of course, eventually the Twilight Zone, the movie, became a book. All right, by Robert Bloch, wrote the book. And Bloch's order of the segments does not match the order in the film itself, as he was given the original screenplay to work with, in which Nightmare at 2,000 Feet was the second segment and Kick the Can was the fourth. The movie's prologue is missing in that novelization. Bloch claimed that no one told him the anthology had a wraparound sequence. Bloch also said that in the 6 weeks he was given to write the book, he only saw a screening of 2 of the segments. He had to hurriedly change the ending of the first segment after the helicopter accident that occurred during the film. So, yeah, doing a couple of things. And he says, as originally written, the first segment would have ended as it did in the original screenplay. Connor finds redemption by saving 2 Vietnamese children whose village is being destroyed by the air cavalry. The finished book reflects how the first segment ends in the final cut of the film. So,
yeah. So that's kind of a cool thing from this time period too, like the novelizations of movies. Like nearly every movie got a novelization.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but they would hire somebody like Robert Bloch or who's the other famous one? I can't think of it right now. Anyway, to write a novelization based on an early version of a script usually.
Yeah.
And a lot of times the novels were actually better than the movies in some cases.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen that. Like, we talked a little bit about that when we were doing the whole Friday the 13th series. Me and you were both shocked that they made Friday the 13th Part 3 into a book.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. So yeah, we've seen that with
all of them into a book.
Yeah, they probably and then like these these random horror movies, like the Super B ones, they'll just make into a book. So yeah, it's pretty cool during that period that they would do that. But Alison and everybody, I say let's get into the full review of the Twilight Zone.
Let's do it.
The movie, brother.
Let's do it.
John Landis, American Werewolf in London. Steven Spielberg, E.T. Joe Dante, The Howling. George Miller, Mad Max. These acclaimed directors take you to another dimension. A journey into a wondrous land whose only boundaries are your imagination. Next stop, the Twilight Zone.
All right, so we started off the movie by hearing the song, "When the Midnight Special, shine a
Yes.
light on me," and over again.
What a great song.
We get these two guys in the car screaming their lungs off. One of the guys, I was like, "Oh shit, that's the guy from Ghostbusters." All right.
I think it's funny that that's the first movie you think of when you think of Dan Aykroyd.
Well, what do you think of?
I mean, I guess I remember. Well, I remember him on reruns of Saturday Night Live,
Okay.
and I remember him from Animal House and the Blues Brothers,
Blues Brothers. Okay.
because these were all movies. Because these were all movies that ran on Saturday afternoon television, or Sunday afternoon television. You know, when I was a kid, because we didn't have cable, we only had the 3 channels. We had ABC, NBC, and CBS, and they would always play old movies from like the 70s or really early 80s sometimes. You know, and that's pretty much how I know him, from like those kind of movies.
Ah. So they're singing this song, and then the tape gets all messed up. Damn. I hate when that happens.
I always hated when that. Yeah, I hated it when that
Fuck,
happens.
brother. It happens in the Trans Am all the time.
Yeah. In a few more years, though, we'll have CD.
Yeah.
here.
Almost there, man. Almost there.
Almost there, buddy.
So now they're driving like on this like dark road and stuff, and now the driver guy, this Albert Brooks guy, who has a weird mouth,
Yes.
by the way. His mouth is freaking me out. It's just so weird. And he kept like opening it really loud. Like he has a wide mouth. It was weird. And he likes to play chicken. All right, Alison, he likes to turn the lights off and drive in the dark and see if he hits anything.
Yeah.
So now
Sounds like fun, right?
yeah, so now after they got bored of that, now they started playing like TV game songs where they humming everything. And at this point, I'm just like, what the hell am I watching?
Because apparently they only have one cassette, right?
Yeah, they only have one cassette, brother. You know what I mean? You go on a long road trip with one cassette. You're fucked. Okay?
That's the thing that gets me. Is like, and there's no more entertainment out here.
Yeah, there's no more entertainment.
Have
We don't.
one cassette.
Yeah, where's the Wi-Fi? All right, that's some time zone for you. So then they start getting on to the old TV show Twilight Zone, and then they say what's their famous episodes, and they're talking about the episodes with the guy losing his glasses, and all this crap. And now Dan Aykroyd was basically, they're just called driver and passenger, but basically Dan Aykroyd was like, hey, you pull over, man. I want to show you something really scary. He's like, what are you talking about? He's like, yeah, just pull over, man. I'll show you something really scary and stuff. More scary than your little chicken thing. All right. It's like, okay. So he turns the car, pulls it over, and then he turns it to a monster.
Yes.
Ah. Okay.
So I have a weird memory of this. So I don't know if I've seen this movie since I was a little kid.
I don't think I've ever seen this movie.
So I don't think I've seen it since it was pretty new. Like I think I saw it on VHS. And I have this memory. I would have bet you money that when Dan Aykroyd turns around, he turns into a werewolf.
It kind of looked like one.
But he was like just like a monster. Like I remember like this big wolf face, which I thought all of these years was like a nod to American Werewolf in London.
Yeah,
but apparently that never happened.
Well, it's kind of like that. The trick of the mind, man. You think it might have happened when you're a kid. When you see it, you're like, oh shit! After all these years, it wasn't like that.
Yep, my mind turns it into a werewolf.
So after the intro, we get the first story, which is it's called Time Out. The one that they were talking about during the Who Booked This Shit segment. And apparently this episode is actually, it's not a full remake, but apparently it has elements from the original shows Back There and A Quality of Mercy. All right, Back There was involving a man who exited the club after a conversation about the feasibility of the time travel to change the past. And Quality of Mercy was a lieutenant finds himself suddenly have swapped places with an enemy for lesson on empathy. So it takes two elements from those two stories.
Yeah, and apparently Landis directed the original version. No, never mind.
Yeah, we did. He said
that.
yeah, so like the quality of Mercy was originally directed by John Landis.
No, that it wasn't. That's written badly.
Oh, really? Okay.
He's in this Wikipedia thing that you're looking at. It says this segment was also written and directed by Landis, but he's talking about the segment that we're talking about. Not the original episode.
That makes sense.
That's really confusing the way he writes that. Yeah, the way he writes that. Because I was like, wait a minute, there's no way Landis wrote the original episode of this.
Yeah, but so this one starts out with the main guy Bill. All right, which his name was actually William, and the narrator of this. Who was the narrator of the whole fucking thing?
It was Burgess Meredith.
Yes.
Rocky's coach.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Or as I know him, the Penguin from the Batman TV series.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. There we go. So we got the Penguin on here, narrating this whole Twilight Zone stories. It's about William being an angry, lonely man, and he goes into a sports bar, finds his friends, and he's all mad that he didn't get the promotion. And then he goes on to say a bunch of stuff that I just can't repeat here on the air.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, he doesn't like black people living near him, or Filipinos,
yes,
or Jews,
yes,
or really anybody else.
Yes. So he's basically this bigot guy, like Alison said, he's hating all these blacks and Jews and stuff. And he's also talking about like how he served his country and everything. Now like some Jews, they own his house and everything. And he kept saying the N-word, and then these black dudes getting all mad about it and saying, "Yo, what's wrong with your friend?" Very civil, these black guys were, and nowadays people whipped his ass now.
Well, I mean, that probably would have happened then too, but I think that they were very civil to him. Considering how he was acting.
Yes. So, the big thing about Bill, he's just pissed off that he lost this promotion from his job, and he was really counting on getting that promotion and all this money. And now he's basically blaming all these races, all these people besides himself, basically. And he's all upset, and he's even trying to flirt with the waitress, and she's not having it, so he just leaves. And then right when he steps out, he notices that he sees like it looks like we're in like Nazi Germany, basically. You have the Nazi sign back over there. We see some Jew hate signs around there. And then all these Nazi soldiers come up to him. They start interrogating him in Germany. Or in German. Well, they're in Germany and they're talking German. There you go.
Yeah, but strangely, they sometimes speak English, so it's kind of weird.
Well, you can do that here and there. Maybe some of them got educated on the American style.
Maybe.
So they take his wallet and they're like, "What is this?" He's like, "That's a credit card, man." I was like, I don't think they had credit cards back in the day.
Maybe not. They did in the 80s, but maybe not in the 40s when this was taking place.
Yeah. So they all like suspicion him, and I guess they were going to arrest him because he's American. I'm pretty sure they were like fighting with America during this time. And so he actually gets away. They start shooting at him. He goes up to this mother and kids area, wants some help and stuff because he got shot in the arm. And they just rat him out quickly. All right, and then the Nazis come up there, and he goes out the window, and I like one Nazi goes to look for him and just falls out the window.
Yeah,
I was like, what the fuck? And so now they start shooting him. And they're missing him on purpose, and they're like laughing about it. And then he falls, and then when he falls, he wakes up, and now he's gonna be hanged from the Ku Klux Klan.
Yeah, and one of the Ku Klux Klan members is John Larroquette from Night Court.
Oh, okay.
Which, he's the guy that's like looking down on him with the dark hair. Not the main guy. He's like one of the guys off the side. I always love like these movies from the early 80s when people would become famous in the late 80s and they show up in these weird small parts in these movies.
Yeah. Well, John Travolta did that too.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that did this, you know. Yeah, I mean, especially in horror movies. Well,
yeah.
I was going to talk to you about that. You count this as a horror movie? I mean, I guess a little bit.
It's horror-like.
Yeah.
I think it fits in the category enough for us to do it. But yeah, I thought it was kind of funny that John Larroquette was one of the Ku Klux Klan guy, because he's always such a funny, likable character and everything, and then he's playing like an evil person in this.
Hey man, you got to switch up the roles every once in a while. So they're basically about to burn him. All right, and they kept saying a bunch of stuff I can't say here, and basically he eventually gets away. He pushes one of the Klan members into the sign and starts burning him. I was like, dang, he's getting him. And then he jumps.
And the guy's like, ah, and then they're trying to put him out. They pull the robes off to try to put him out. Yeah.
And then he jumps into the lake, and now he's in the Vietnam War.
Yep.
And he's hiding and stuff. And you see this snake. This snake didn't look animated. So, I mean, nowadays that shit would have been CGI and fucking all this bullshit.
Yeah, that's probably a real snake.
So he's getting out, and then these American soldiers start shooting him. All right, because they all think he's one of them Vietnamese soldiers.
Right.
So then they throw a grenade at his ass, and he blows up, and now he's back in Germany. All right, and the Germans actually finally capture his ass, and they throw him into the train. All right, and then he gets wheeled off, and then he sees his friends through the train. He starts calling for them, but they can't hear him.
Yeah, it's too late now.
It's too late. He's off to be in the
gas chamber, in the concentration camp.
So that's how he ended the first story. You know, not too bad. I actually thought this one was, besides all the, the hard language and stuff, but, the language and all this stuff was for the actual story. And, I thought this story was very, it seems like something that can even, show people nowadays, about how to be more, tolerant towards, different people and everything.
Yep.
So the next story, and the way they did this was kind of like weird. Like they just like ended that one and just goes, and then you hear the narration guy again, Penguin, and then we're just going right into the next story, brother. There ain't no cutting. There's nothing. We're just going right into it. So now we're at some old folks' home, the Sunnyvale Retirement Home. All right. And this one, segment 2, this one is actually a remake of the episode Kick the Can.
Yes.
All right. And this one was the one that was directed by Steven Spielberg. All right. And it was from a screenplay by George Clayton Johnson. So we see this old guy. We see a lot of old people. So basically an old folks home.
Mostly old people. We are an old folks home.
And the whole story is basically they're talking at the beginning. I like at the beginning where they're getting a lesson on vitamins. All right, so they're getting a lesson on vitamins, what vitamins to take, and then the old guy just randomly says, "Yeah, you can also take a vitamin for sex. You all remember sex, right?" And then this one old guy, he gets like really excited about it. I was like, "Yeah, buddy, I remember that." So one of the guys, Conroy, I believe, he is the one that we could see. He's either talking to or he's the guy outside, and basically what it is, it's just showing like kind of like the sad state of what can happen when you're in like a retirement home, where you want to get visited by your family and hang out with your family, but sometimes your family's too busy for you, so they just leave you there. They're not even talk to you.
Which is sad. That should never happen. Go visit your family.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody, if you got somebody out there in the old, you gotta visit them. All right. So like this one guy, he has his suitcases. He's ready to get by his family, but his family's basically saying, "Hey, we don't have time for you and stuff, even though we came to visit you. You can't come with us." And the guy was saying, like, "Yeah, this guy comes out every other Saturday with his suitcases, and every other Saturday he comes back in with the suitcases." All right. And then, a lot of the old people start talking now about what they wish they could do if they were younger. And this is when Mr. Bloom, all right, is talking about, like, "Hey, why can't you do it? Just do it." It's like, "Well, we're old and everything. My hip's bad and everything." You got this one lady talking about her dancing. One guy's talking about him climbing up. He likes to climb and stuff. And he's like, "Oh, well, why don't you just do this?" And then they start playing about they start talking about games. Alison, have you ever played Kick the Can before?
No, when they play the kick the can in this
Yes.
movie. I was going to ask you if you'd explain the rules to me. But I did want to mention before we move further that Mr. Bloom was played by the great Scatman Crothers,
Yes.
who did in everything that he's ever done. He's probably most famous for being in The Shining.
Yes. Was he the bartender, right?
No, he was the old man that teaches the little kid about The Shining.
Oh, okay. Yes, that's right.
I know him most though as the voice of Jazz from the Transformers,
Oh,
and
okay.
as Hong Kong Phooey.
There you go.
Which, if you've never seen Hong Kong Phooey, it's one of the greatest cartoons ever made.
There you go, man. He did his
But that's
stuff.
a story for another day.
That's cool. He's in Transformers. Can't beat that. So I'm not exactly sure what the rules are to kick the can, but but here's what I got by watching this episode. So you got a can, and then
Yes.
you do hide and seek. All right.
Yeah.
But you find somebody, but then somebody else can kick the can. I guess is their turn. I have no idea, to be honest with you.
That's what I'm trying to. If we have any listeners out there that are like 90 years old,
Yeah, exactly.
Please contact us and tell us how to play this.
I'm sorry
game.
to do
'Cause,
I'm sorry to do my rigorous research of how to play kick the can, brother. Okay.
Yeah, because it seems like this is probably a game that even my parents wouldn't even know how to play. As at the age they're at, they probably never played kick the can. This is like a Depression era game, I think. But like,
well, it's Mr. Bloom's favorite game. He loves that.
Yeah,
shit.
right. But apparently, you have like a can, and then you play hide and seek, and then when you find somebody, but then the other guy runs out and kicks the can, and then runs away again. So is he now the like? I don't know. I have no idea how this game is played.
I don't know either. All right. You just make it up as you go, I guess. Well, here's how it's done in this episode.
Just like we do this show.
So our boy, Mr. Bloom, he basically tells, listen, all you old people, all right, I'm going to make you all young again, all right, because tonight, meet me at midnight outside, and we're going to play kick the can, and you're all going to be young again. And like most of them are like, oh, okay, yeah, we'll show up. And then, of course, Conroy is like, nah, what the hell are you talking about? Everybody's old here. It's past our bedtimes. I don't believe you. You're just weird.
Does he say that? I don't remember that. Does he say he's going to make you young, or he just says,
well, he says,
meet me at this time, or we're going to play kick the can?
We're going to play kick the can, and you're going to feel young again. That's basically what he's saying. He's saying, like, basically, he wants to, yeah, the way he was explaining it doesn't, it wasn't make you to believe everybody was turning young, but he's going to say, like, why, just because we're old doesn't mean we can't have fun. You know what I mean? So you're going to feel young again if you come out here and play kick the can with me. All right?
Okay.
Because he's all like, hey, girl, I want to see you dance. I want to see you climb. I want to see you, the one guy that, I guess he's horny. I want to see you fuck, I guess, or something. So it's at night. All these old people sneak out. They start playing kick the can. And at first I was like, they were doing hide and seek. And I was like, well, what the fuck? Like, they're doing hide and seek. What's that to do with kick the can? And then he finds one of them. And the other one kicks the can. And then they all run again. And they all like start running. And then like they all turn young.
Yeah.
Convoy is sleeping. He's like, oh, damn kids outside. And then they all turn into kids except for Mr. Bloom. So you see all these, they're all like different age young too, which is weird.
Yeah, I know. Although I thought that maybe it corresponds to the age they were. Like the older ones were older, but then like the guy that turned into like the little British kid, like he seemed like he was younger than the woman who wanted to dance, who turned younger than him. So yeah. I don't know.
Well, maybe what I got out of the British guy was he was the horny one, so he wanted that nice age where you start thinking about sex more.
Okay, good point. I really liked this segment up until this part. This is where I thought it started going downhill.
Yeah.
Just so you know.
So yeah, all these kids start playing around. Some people think they're Peter Pan. One of the girls asked like to Mr. Bloom, like, hey, how come you didn't turn old or were too young? And he's like, well, I learned a long time ago that I can be I have an old body, but I have a young mind. Oh.
Right, which was kind of his point from the beginning, right?
Yes.
Like, it was not necessarily that you need to be young, but you need to stay young in your mind and stay active,
Yes.
which is a good rule for anyone, I say.
So now he starts talking to some of the kids and everything, and they all like being young and everything. But then they realize, wait a minute, if I'm young like this, I won't be able to see my daughter. I won't have a daughter anymore. They won't recognize me. There's like just different things as an old person you can't do. I don't have a wedding ring. The wedding ring fell off for my husband and stuff. And they're just like they realize that they don't want to be young, okay? But Mr. Bloom's like, okay, well, don't worry about that. You don't have to be, you don't have to be young like this. You can just be like me. You can be old, but with a young mind. And they all agree. Yeah. So they all go back. They basically, he said he gives them a choice. You all could stay out here and party and play all night. Or if you go back to sleep, you'll turn old again. And they all agree, except for the British guy, to go back and be old again. And then we see Convoy. He wakes up, sees a bunch of kids in there, grabs Miss Cox. All right. They look around. They find the guy. They kick him out. And now Convoy's like, he believes them now. But first he didn't believe that they're all, what happened. And then now Convoy's like, take me with you. I want to be young too. And then the British guy's like, brother, it's impossible. I'm the only one going to be out here fucking everybody. You got to stay here and be old. All right? And he's like, oh, no.
Yeah, something like that.
And then, then they wake up, right? And Mr. Bloom's leaving because his work's been done here.
Yeah.
He sees Convoy kick the can. He's like, yep, he'll eventually get it. And I was like, what? What, he's going to be young or something if he plays this game? I have no idea. And then,
no, he's saying that he's gonna get it to where he's gonna understand how to feel young, and still be happy. Because remember, his whole thing was like, we're old and we shouldn't be happy and we shouldn't do things that are fun ever again. That was kind of like his whole attitude from the beginning.
Yeah.
Past our bedtime.
And so now, all like the old people now are like very, energetic and stuff because they have those young minds now. The caretaker lady doesn't know what the fuck's going on. And then like Mr. Bloom just like leaves. Like, I'm not sure what kind of old folk home this is, brother, but like, the ones I visited to, brother, you can't just leave. All right.
No. And he stays like one day.
This is like one day and he leaves. And then no shitting you, he just walked. Okay, this is my favorite part of this whole story because it's so ridiculous.
I can tell you took this the same way I did, but okay, go ahead.
So not only does he leave this old folks home that probably took him like a couple months to even get accepted to be in there, okay? Like, I guess things were different in the 80s. You could just walk in and walk out if you want to. But he just fucking leaves. And not even down the street, brother. Like 3 houses. Oh, there's another folks home. Oh, okay. I'll just come to this one. I'm already pre-booked.
So like
I'm pretty
sure.
How many old folks homes are in this block? Like 10 of them? It's like, yeah, brother, I've been to all of them. All right.
I'm pretty sure that this is like the worst thing I've ever seen Steven Spielberg direct. I'm pretty sure that he's supposed to be arriving from a different town.
Oh, okay.
But it looks like in the movie that he just walks around the corner and finds another old folks home. Because I was going to ask you, like, how many old folks homes are on the same street in this damn town?
No. It's just a town full of old folks home, and Mr. Bloom's, what he does, he just checks into all of them and makes them all young again.
I guess so, yeah. Because at the beginning he said, "Yeah, I've been in 8 of them." Like, I've been all the other 8 down the street.
Yeah. The whole block, brother. I got it covered. All right. All right. So yeah, that was that one. Okay. So now we have the third one. All right. And this one was supposed to mirror the episode "It's a Good Life." Okay. And this is the one. This is the one that was directed by Joe Dante. Okay.
Yeah.
And so "It's a Good Life" was one of my favorite episodes of the Twilight Zone original one because this one was actually pretty creepy. And
yeah, this is terrifying. This scared the shit out of me.
Yeah, and like I always thought that this episode was like the inspiration for like Children of the Corn or like like the Omen. Like it basically is a kid with like powers. You know what I mean?
Right.
that you can't.
Right, like a kid with godlike powers, but he doesn't have the maturity to control them.
Exactly.
That's what the original episode was about.
Exactly. So we get a narration saying like we're going to meet this school teacher who's basically her name is Helen Foley, and she just does normal routines. You know, nothing's crazy has happened to her life until now, brother. So she stops at a gas station, or not at a gas station, but like some sort of diner, and she's trying to get directions to go on to some place. And we can see like this kid's playing one of them value game machines. All right. And he's angry about the machine, saying like it keeps going in and out. And the fucking diner guy's like, I don't know anything about those machines, brother. I just take the quarters out of them. All right. And I guess like Alison, you know, I'm not like a full electrician over here. Mm-hmm. But I believe if you smack an arcade machine, I don't think your TV goes out.
No, I don't think any of that's scientifically possible. I have no idea why any of that would make the.
Could it be his powers maybe were affecting the television?
I mean, maybe. I mean, I guess he could have been doing it on purpose. But my question would have been like, if he can literally do anything he wants, why doesn't he just make the video game work the way he wants it to?
Well, I think it was a trick. Something I could think of.
I see. Okay, I see.
I mean, that's
he was trying to lure her in.
Yes, that's the only thing I could think of.
Okay.
So now the diner guy starts flirting with Helen. All right, and she's not having it. And then his wife calls. Oh, fuck, what a cock block. All right? When the wife calls, brother, come on. All right, so now we have this guy, Charlie. He pushes the kid down for fucking up his boxing TV. All right, and then, of course, Helen is getting, taking care of the kid because this guy just pushed his kid down. And she gets out of there. The diner guy's apologizing, and she does a burn on him saying, "Nice town." Oh, okay. Then she leaves, and she runs over the kid. Right? And she picks.
So I openly laughed at this. I thought this was the funniest fucking thing I'd ever seen. Like, so she goes through this entire segment of where she's trying to like protect this kid and she's talking about how shitty everybody is, and then she backs out of that looking and runs his ass over. Yeah.
So she's all like, "Oh shit, I'll pay for the bike and everything to fix it," and he asks for a ride home, and she's like, "Sure, I'll drive you home." And they're driving home, and he starts talking about like how like it's his birthday today, and his parents or nothing doesn't pay attention to his birthday, but now he feels like he has a new friend in Helen. And Helen knows, like, hey, man, you live kind of out here in the sticks, very far away. All right. And then they drive up to his house. She says, "Oh, yeah, come on in, just meet everybody." So she's like, "Okay, cool. I'll come on in." And we could see that we find out it's going to be the uncle and his sister are just staring at cartoons looking like bored as shit.
Yeah, that's the only thing on TV is cartoons.
Yeah. And so, like, first I was like, I didn't really grasp what this episode was about until this scene happened where, the kid's name is Anthony. He brings Helen into, the house and everything. And now all the parents, everybody's greeting him. They look very nervous. I'm like, oh, it's that episode. I got right away that it was about the kid who can wish everything. But I believe in the original episode, doesn't he wish them to like this like field or something?
The original episode, if I'm not mistaken, it's kind of a different story.
Yeah.
It's about this kid who can control everything. He builds this wall, not a wall, but like a invisible wall up around this town, the town that he lives in. And he controls everything that happens, but he makes these weird, like mutated animals and kills them. And like, he like they like nothing like they run out of like regular supplies because nothing can get in. And then at the very end of that one, he gets mad at them and they're growing crops what they have to use to live on. Which is the only food they can get is the food that they grow in the town. And then he makes it snow to kill the crops. And then his dad in the show starts, kind of yelling at him, saying like, he's like, "You're killing all the crops." He's like, we need this food. And then Anthony in the show looks at him And then he's like, oh, but he's like, it's so good that you're making it snow. Tomorrow will be a good day, and then it ends. So it doesn't have the same kind of ending this segment's going to have. But yeah, it's similar, but they're like living in like this town that he's bubbled off from the rest of the world, apparently, kind of.
Yeah. So, Helen's in there, and basically you can see all the whole family just acting very weird and nervous, and they want her to have, supper because that's what Anthony wants. So they just pretty much do anything that Anthony wants, and they all seem nervous. And she's like, okay, well, I'll use the restroom. So she goes over to the restroom, and she can see that every corner has a TV playing some cartoons on it.
Yeah.
Right? And the family's going through her purse, right, during this. And then Helen meets Sarah, which is another sister of Anthony. And Anthony says, oh, well, she got injured and stuff. She doesn't talk. You could see that she's in a wheelchair, and her mouth is, not there, pretty much.
Yeah, we see that, but Helen doesn't.
Yeah, she doesn't see it. So all the uncles and the parents and the sister all going through the purses. They start smoking cigarettes, looking at all these pictures and stuff, how much they liked all this stuff. And Anthony and Helen come back, and they start watching some TV. Anthony wants Helen to sit by her. They all kind of force her to sit by him. And Anthony's asking for the supper. And the mom is like, well, where's the supper, Anthony? I'm not sure where it is. He's like, well, it's in the oven. She's like, oh, yes, of course. So they bring out the supper, and all it is, it's like candy. It looks like a candy apple, some ice cream, and a peanut butter on like a fucking hamburger bun.
Hamburger, yeah. Well, it's like a hamburger with peanut butter on it.
Yeah.
One thing before we get that far is one thing I thought was cool about this is how a lot of the subtext of the story is told through the cartoons. So in the scene where he gets Helen to sit beside him, they're showing that Heckle and Jekyll cartoon, I believe it is. And then he's like, and one of the crows says, I can do anything I want. See, if I want to be a mouse, I can be a mouse. And he turns into a mouse. So that's kind of like, they haven't told us in this segment what's really going on, but they're kind of telling us through the cartoons, which I thought was really fucking cool.
Yeah. So they're eating, all this stuff, and everybody's kind of forced to eat it. And Helen's like,
yes,
y'all eat this shit? It's like, doesn't kids need like nutrition and stuff? And I was like, all the people look nervous, and Anthony's like, yeah, how come we never have no nutrition around here? All right. And then like Helen's like, oh wait, I get it. This is like your birthday dinner. And then like Ethel's like, it's another birthday for you and more presents and stuff. And then Anthony, he gets pissed, and she's like, oh shit. So he does like this, like he like basically uses his magic and shows off his magic basically in front of Helen. I think what does he do? Vanish all the food or something? It kind of pushes her back, and then now Helen
knocks the food out of her hand.
Yeah. And now, he knocks the food out. And then Helen's, like, freaked out now. She wants to leave. And, they're basically, like, saying, like, no, you can't leave. You can't leave. You got to stay here and stuff. And Anthony's saying, you got to stay here. You're going to be my new friend and everything. And, now he's saying, like, okay, well, you got to stay here. You got to watch my uncle's hat tricks. All right? It's like, okay. So he forces the uncle to do, like, a hat trick. All right. And the uncle's like super nervous, doesn't know what to do at all. And eventually pulls out a bunny out of his hat. And then, of course, Anthony turns the bunny into a bunny demon.
And kills him.
All right. Does he kill him?
I thought it did. Maybe I'm wrong.
It might have just like scared him. Because I think... Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, so a couple of notes here before we move further. Uncle Walt was played by Kevin McCarthy, who people may know as the lead in the original Invasion of the Body Snatchers. And this was shocking to me when I saw it. So Ethel was played by Nancy Cartwright. And I, and probably most people, know Nancy Cartwright as the voice of Bart Simpson. She's played Bart Simpson since the beginning and still plays Bart Simpson today. So, but yeah, that's who Ethel is.
That's pretty sweet. So now Anthony finds this little piece of note that was in Helen's purse. I guess they one of the people slipped a note in there basically saying Anthony is a monster, for what he does. And, Anthony's like, what the hell? Who wrote this? You know what I mean? I ain't no monster. See, y'all just don't understand me. And then all the people just blame Ethel. All right? And Anthony's like, of course it's Ethel. So he transforms her into the cartoon show. And then she gets attacked and killed within the cartoon, which I thought it was super clever.
And I thought that looked really good for its time.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to consider how hard that would be to do in 1983. And now we would have computer programs that would just do that. But they had to film her and then do the cartoon and then then somehow put her into that video. I don't know. That was like magic then. I don't know.
Yeah. So Helen wants to leave again. And they're basically all saying, you won't be able to leave. This Anthony, he can do anything he wants. He can wish anything he wants. See? Then he shows the TV, and the TV breaks, and it turns into a monster. And Helen's he's basically telling him, hey, I need you to wish it away. And then Anthony wishes the house away. All right? Yeah. So now they're in some sort of fog land. And
fog, yes.
Fog land is two of them, mirroring each other. And he's talking about nobody understands him. He's just making wishes to make everything better. And basically Helen's like, listen, just, you could stay with me and I'll stay with you if I become your teacher and also become your student. And I was like, so Helen over here is trying to manipulate Anthony to find his mutant powers, and she's going to turn it against the world.
So she's Magneto.
Well, kind of. Yes. Well, maybe she's is there a mutant that can study and then learn the powers from there? Because that's the one she would be.
No, so what I think she's trying to do is she's trying to control him. She's trying to she could be doing one of two things. We don't know her intentions. She could be she could have realized that, well, if I can convince him to trust me, then he can make the world better, and I can teach him how to do that. Or she could be saying I could use this kid to control the entire world.
Yes, one of the two. We don't know her true motives. All right,
we don't.
But they get into a car. She kind of tells him to lay back a little bit on those wishes. They drive off, and then a bunch of flowers show up in that Styx area. Not too bad.
No, not bad. It was kind of scary.
So now we have the fourth story is here. And, of course, this one is the remake of the Nightmare at 20,000 Feet segment. And this one was the one that was directed by George Miller. And, of course, the original Nightmare at 20,000 Feet had a good old William Shatner on there doing his acting. All right.
Yes. I am a different opinion than most people. I think that William Shatner is a better actor than people give him credit for.
Oh, yeah. I think he's great, too.
I mean, he was a Shakespearean actor before he was on Star Trek. I think it's just something the internet's taught people to think is hilarious and bad. But
so anyway. One of my favorite things that William Shatner ever did, and this is very obscure, when he was on WWE Raw. I don't know if you remember this, and he lip sync wrestlers' theme songs. Have you ever seen that?
I've never seen
Oh
that.
my God, bro. It is fantastic. He's singing Shawn Michaels' song in his William Shatner voice and manner. Oh, it is fantastic. He's like, yes, I am a sexy boy. Sexy boy. All right. And he's singing all these wrestler things. Bro, it is fantastic. I might have to send it to you. You guys have to see this. It is, it's brilliant. I don't know how they made him do this. It was so great. That's one of my favorite William Shatner obscure things ever. I'll send it to you after the show because this is fucking hilarious.
This is unbelievable. But I've got to see this. But if you want to see good movies that he's in, he was in a movie called Devil's Reign in the 70s and a movie called Impulse that was really good. He made a movie called Incubus in the 60s that was really good. So he's made some really good movies. He's a lot better actor than people get him credit for.
Yeah.
But we got derailed on William Shatner, who's not in this episode. So maybe, we should get back on track. Maybe.
Yeah. So basically, we start off with the John Valentine brother.
Yeah.
I played by the third rock guy. What's his name again?
John Lithgow.
John Lithgow, yes. So he's in there freaking out. You know, basically, he's, you know, a lot of people are been known to not fly well. You know, they get very nervous of flying. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I'm surprised I'm not one of those guys since I'm afraid of heights. But, you know, flying, I get a little nervous, but I'm not like freaking out in the bathroom like this guy is. And they're basically trying to get him out of the bathroom, and he has to take like pills and everything. He's just freaked out the whole time. So he gets taken to his.
Why would he?
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to ask why he would feel more comfortable in the bathroom.
Well, because he can't see
I have a couple questions about this. Oh, because he can't see. Well, why is he sitting by a window? Why doesn't he just sit in the aisle seat? The whole row that he's in is empty.
Well, I mean, fuck, bro, because it's the window seat. You can't. You know, I mean, that's the best seat in the house. All right?
Well, it is the best seat in the house, that's for sure. But not if you don't like flying. It's not.
So he gets put back to his seat, right? And then, like, I like how he has like this book. It's about like micro science and shit. And the steward's like, "Oh, I see you write science fiction." And he's like, "No, it's not, brother." It's just like, no. She's like, "Oh, I." First of all,
no, she says he says it's a textbook.
Yeah, it's a textbook, and she's like, "Oh, okay." It's like, "Yeah, I wrote it." All right. It's about.
Then she says people read this stuff, and he's like, "Well, I wrote it."
Yeah. And he's talking about like these microchips and back in people's heads. I'm like, where are we going? Where are we going with this? All right. This guy's freaked out in this airplane. Like, he was so freaked out with the airplane. Why is he even on the airplane? Was that like?
Well, he probably has to fly places. I mean, he's a famous author. He has to move from place to place pretty quick, probably.
So he's on there.
I don't know how he's made it this far.
Yes.
So, with his career. But anyway.
Yeah. And then like this younger girl is telling him to, quiet down. And then this cop guy looks at him all angry and shit. And he's like, okay, I can do this. I can relax. And, and then he looks out the window and he starts looking. And he's like, what? He sees something, but he can't be sure what it is. And then he keeps looking. Then we see like this figure of like this monster thing, like eating at the wing.
It's Kremlin.
And he freaks out, brother. Oh, fuck. Freaking out everywhere. Freaking just everybody's just going, he's just going crazy. And eventually we had the flight captain guy come out here. It was like, bro, you need to calm down. All right. He's like, hey, look out there. I saw this creature and I saw a man. First, he thought it was a man. Yeah. He thought it was a man on the wing.
That's what he tells the guy.
And the guy looks out there, doesn't see anything. And he's all like, hey, maybe he now, John, he just thinks he's so freaked out that he's seeing things, basically. All right. And he tells everybody, he's like, fine, I'm fine. It won't happen again. So he's laying there and he's like, you know what? I'm just going to check out this window again. So he opens up the blind and the fucking monster's face is right in front of him. So he freaks out again. All right.
Yeah.
And now he's saying now he's telling the guy like, hey, there's something out there. I think there's something wrong with the engine. And then he's asking the pilot guy like, hey, did anything happen to one of these engines? He's like, yeah, lightning hit one of our engines, but this fucking plane has like four engines, so we should be good.
So what he says was he says, what do you think is the pilot asks him, what do you think is wrong with the plane?
Yeah.
And he says an engine has gone out. He's like, there's something tearing up the engine. And then the pilot says, well, we did lose an engine a few minutes ago. And that would have just totally validated everything he was afraid of if the pilot told him that. I mean, and he was trying to say that we have four engines and we can fly even if we just have one engine. But he would have freaked the fuck out if you told him that.
Yeah. And I did like the line. He's like, before he said all that, it's like, yeah, I saw a naked man on a wing, 30,000 feet in the air. I must be going crazy.
Right. Must be going crazy.
So he's freaking out everything. They said, like I said, they lost engines, but they have 3 more, so they should be okay. It's like, the pilot's like, it's impossible for this plane to go down, brother. And we're going to be landing in 20 minutes. All right. So now, the John guy, he takes the girl's camera, the younger girl's camera. He tries to take a picture outside of the monster and stuff, and he could really see this monster's going crazy on another engine. And now the airplane starts to go down a little bit, and we have like this big, everything's falling down, everything. Basically, the plane looks like it's going down, basically.
Yeah.
And eventually,
well, but first,
go ahead.
You have to mention though that he takes the little girl's camera, or Polaroid camera to take the picture, but he makes the classic mistake of leaving the flash on.
Yeah, so he
like
barely
all
sees
those
anything.
dumbasses do at concerts. Every time we go to one, they try to shoot the concert video with their fucking phone flashlight on.
Yeah,
don't do that, people. All that does is illuminate and focus the camera on the people standing right in front of you. Not to mention, it's fucking annoying. You should almost never use a flash in photography.
Yes.
Never when you're at a concert, ever.
Or on an airplane, 30,000 feet.
Or on an airplane
naked...
when you're trying to take a picture of a monster on the plane.
Yes. I mean, come on, man. Amateur, brother. What kind of micro scientist is this guy?
Not a good one.
So eventually, during all the melee, everybody's falling down, trying to get their air tanks. This is a very disorganized plane going down. All right. So he takes he takes the cop's gun, right? And then the cop tries to grab his ass. He breaks the window. And then once he breaks the window, all the shit goes to hell. Like, obviously they're up that high, so everything's getting like sucked outside. But he gets himself outside of the plane, getting held on to by the cop. He didn't get sucked out of the plane. He's fine. He's only getting, the cop has enough strength to defy gravity. Okay. Yes. And he starts to try to shoot the gremlin monster, and he misses. And the gremlin monster looks at him, does the whole no, no, no sign, and just flies away.
Yeah, because they're about to land.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming that the gremlin has to finish his damage before they land, because you can see the runway coming.
Yeah, so he flies away, and he's basically saying, like, you're fucked because you're going to be crashing. But it doesn't look like it crashed, though. The plane did. Looks like it landed.
It landed.
Yeah, it landed fine.
Remember, they can land with 3 engines.
So now we could see John. He's basically in a gurney, and he's all freaked out. And all the people were talking like, it was like, why was there a gun on board? The cop's like, oh, it was my gun. All right. And then they're like, that stewardess were saying like, I can't believe he would break the window and do all that stuff. He was truly just crazy. All right. And then we have some of the airplane tech crew checking out the airplane to see, about the bad engine. And then they could see on that wing that it's all tore up like crazy.
Fucked up.
And they're all looking at it like, what the hell? Like, they're all thinking basically in their head, like, oh, wait, was this John guy right about a naked man tearing up the wing on there, brother? All right? So now John, he's in the ambulance getting taken away, and we can hear the song that we heard at the beginning, the Midnight Special.
Yeah.
Right? And then John's like, oh, I like this song. And then we could see that it's, was it Aykroyd? He's there. He's back.
Dan Aykroyd, yeah.
He's all like, hey, I heard like you got a crazy night, haven't you? He's like, yeah, you like this song? Yeah. He's like, do you want to see something really scary? And then they drive off, brother.
And then we play Midnight Special on the credits going on.
Yes.
One thing I thought was hilarious about this. Now, I don't know. I mean, things could have been different then, but this was the largest inside of an airplane I've ever seen.
Oh yeah, man.
And I'm sure that it was made that way because they had to put the film crew inside the plane that they built the set. But like, he's like, you've been in a airplane bathroom, you can barely even turn around in that thing, and he's sitting down in there.
Well,
and then they go in there to get him. Like, there's no way 2 people could fit in there. And then they're all standing like right beside him when they bring him down the aisle. And I'm like, no, there's like, I mean, you remember that plane to Florida? Like, I mean, you were probably almost hitting your head on it when you were walking down the aisle.
Well, back in the day, brother, like 1983, they just built things bigger.
I guess so.
You know what I mean?
At least movie sets.
Yeah. Like, it just, we had more of the treasury was pumping out more money back then. All right.
True.
Come on now.
So now for our rankings, do we count the prologue segments too? Let's
not count that, because there's just 1 second of them people with the guy with the weird mouth singing that song. We're gonna count that shit.
Fair enough.
You want to go first or what? Which one did you like the best?
All right. The one I liked the best was Nightmare at 20,000 Feet.
Okay.
I like the original version of it, and I love this one. That's the one I like the best. Second, I guess second I liked the one about Anthony, because it was scary.
Yeah.
To me. Thirdly, I guess I like the first segment third. Although I didn't love it, but I thought it was fine.
Time Out.
And then Time Out, yeah. And then I liked Kick the Can least.
Yes.
Mostly I liked Kick the Can least because when the kids started acting like old people, I hated it.
Yeah.
Especially that one kid who played the really old lady who wanted to dance. She was just fucking obnoxious. Like, she was trying to like put on some old lady voice, and like, you're not playing an old lady kid. You're playing a young kid. Just that, I don't know. I hated that. Although I did love Scatman Crothers because he's good in anything. But yeah, it was my least favorite segment.
Okay. So ours is going to be a little different.
Okay.
So the one I enjoyed the most was probably the kid one. It's a Good Life.
Really?
Yes.
The one about Anthony. Okay.
Yeah, with that Anthony. Yes. That one. I liked it because like right when I figured out what the episode was about, I was like, okay, this is pretty creepy, and I really enjoyed the cartoons all around the house and how they
that's true,
and how they morphed Ethel into the cartoon and shit. I thought some of the monsters were like a little goofy, in here, like a little cartoonish, like kind of like a Beetlejuice style, like cartoonish.
But they were supposed to be because they were created by a
kid.
mind.
Yes, so it made sense. The only thing I didn't like about this was the ending. I thought the ending was a little confusing with like Helen trying to take the kid under her wing or all this crap.
Yeah, they left it open for a sequel, brother.
Yeah, that's true. They did leave it open. So I thought that one was pretty fun. I thought the other, and then I actually liked the first segment. I actually liked Times Out. The second one was my favorite. I thought it was actually a pretty good, story, about the racist guy and like, basically getting his comeuppance, like making him feel like other people he's being judgmental on. So I thought the actual story, obviously had some meaning to it, which was, something really big for Twilight Zone, which that show was kind of known for that. It was known to, show, emotions and stuff, like story emotions, about like, people being one way or another. Besides the actual like, horrible accident that made to do the segment, I actually thought the segment was done pretty well. And then my third one was the airplane, the 20,000 feet one.
Right.
I thought it was okay, but like, I don't know, like I liked the original one a little better. I thought it flowed more. I just thought like the constant, like this guy was like, it's not like, okay. Do you remember in the original episode, the original 20,000 feet, William Shatner, he wasn't like constantly freaked out. You know what I mean? He was just like a little bit more like nervous airplane rider. This other guy, he was just like, bro, you need to get this guy some fucking, you need to shoot him with a tranquilizer, okay, to calm his ass down.
I think that's a just like a hallmark of John Lithgow's acting.
Yeah,
like everything is just amped up to 10.
Yeah,
like when he does something, like it's just like all the way there, kind of like a Christopher Walken type actor.
Yeah. Even though I did like the finish.
Yeah.
I did like the finish, and I like how they tied the monster in with the beginning monster.
Yeah, that was cool.
And then, of course, Kick the Can. I think everything you said about that was pretty much correct. The guy, Mr. Bloom, he was great, but like just the whole story and then the kids, it's like, oh, God. I'll be honest with you, I was getting a little bored watching it. I thought it was a little too corny. It was like one of those like something you would see on like, some kid network show or something, some feel good story or whatever. I just thought, I don't know. I didn't think it really went really well with like the movie.
Yeah. We're a horror podcast. We don't need no feel good story.
Yeah. I don't want that feel good shit, brother. All right. Come on now. I don't want them old guy going down the... Actually, you could have made it into a horror film. This fucking Mr. Bloom guy going to every old folks' home, getting all these old folks to turn young and having sex with each other again and creating a timeline that could split up the universe and kill a bunch of people. I mean, that's kind of scary.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So that could have happened. But everybody, that is it for the Twilight Zone. So yeah, like what a jam-packed month we have. You know what I mean? We've done Creep Show, Creep Show 2, Fright House. God, what a confusing movie that fucking movie was. Oh my God. From a whisper to a scream. Some wild shit in that movie. Can't believe I was watching with my own 2 eyes. Then of course we did a classic Twilight Zone, the movie. What a wild month, man. It's been very, very, very interesting month. I'm glad we did this one. It's very interesting.
Yeah, me too. It was a good 5-week month.
Yes. But everybody, come join us in April, because it's going to be a big month for the Retro Blood in April, brother. Because not only is it a Retro Blood member's birthday, but we're also going to outer space for his birthday.
We are.
Because we're doing the theme, It Came from Outer Space, brother.
Yeah.
All right.
It came from outer space month. It's going to be some good shit.
And the first one we're going to be doing is a remake of a classic movie that I cannot wait to see. I haven't bought the steelbook. The Blob.
The Blob.
Come join us.
It's going to be awesome.
April for The Blob. And we are going to be doing a special Lights Out for the lead up to WrestleMania 40. Me and Alison are going to recap WrestleMania 1. So check this out for everybody who wants to know more about WrestleMania 1 and our wrestling fans on this podcast. But of course, Alison, let's play, of course, The Trooper.
Hell yeah.
Brother, from here, from this movie. Because, you know, we had a couple of troopers in this film.
We did.
You know what I mean? Like, I could see Helen training a young Anthony to be a trooper. You know, actually, you know, this could have been a backstory for, you know, maybe Anthony would turn into that blue dude from The Watchmen. You know what I mean? Because didn't he have a bunch of special powers he can do too? You know what I mean? Turning him to some sort of weaponized trooper, destroying people.
Yeah, you're talking about Dr. Manhattan. Yeah, so he could basically Dr. Manhattan had the power to like do anything. He could just rearrange atoms. So he could do anything.
Just like our boy Anthony.
Similar to this, yeah.
See? Backstory nobody even thought of. From the Retro Blood.
It's a prequel to The Watchmen.
Yes, there you go. Right, everybody. We will see you next week where It Came from Outer Space, talking The Blob. Jay Alison, Jame Kline. We'll see y'all later.
See you guys.
Attack!